Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Box. Tracy here, and to my next video in the beginners class. So this one, I'm not going to show you how to make these just yet, but this is what we're going to be doing soon. I've been doing a few stitch tutorials, and all of the stitches that we've done so far are in this, well, not all of them, not the treble. The UK treble, US double crochet, not in this one, but a lot of them are. So for this, all I've used is some Aran yarn. Now this is the one, this is Stylecraft Special Aran, and this is just Poundland Aran. So I'm going to show you, this is exactly the same tutorial for this one that's smaller than that one, and you can make these bigger or smaller using thicker yarn or thinner yarn, or just not stuffing them quite so much. This one is the same, but this one's stuffed more than this one. But all I did was get a stick from the garden, like a little twig, and wash it and chop it down so it looks like an authentic one. Some people, they use cinnamon sticks, and others, well, they crochet them, which is a bit more tough. So I need to get you up to speed with some shaping. So there's no increasing or decreasing in this, just a bit of shaping. And I'm going to show you that now. I'm just going to pause it for a second while I pull out some yarn and get ready. Okay, so again, there'll be a left-handed and a right-handed tutorial. And as usual, I'll put the link, which will appear above. I'll also put a link at the end to both playlists, the right-handed and the left-handed playlist, because there's quite a few videos in it now. And you do need to know all of the things we've done so far, well, apart from the treble crochet, which we did with the granny squares. So I made this swatch, and all this is 20 stitches. And I did it so that it was just half trebles, you know, like the half double in the US. And I've done a few rows so that we can get to where you've got to be. So that we've already done. So I will kind of pause the video, or you can pause the video and get your yarn. You don't have to do 20 stitches, but I've done 20 so that I can get a nice long row of showing you what we're going to be doing. So get a couple of rows together. It doesn't have to be this many. Just get past the first one really, and then we can make a start on showing you the different kind of shaping that we're going to be using for the pumpkins. If you haven't done already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and you'll be informed when the new videos pop up. Okay, so what we do then, we've got our swatch, and I'll show you a little bit about the anatomy of the stitches. So here we've got our stitch. This is the back, because the very first row that I did was this way. You can see the front of a stitch as opposed to like the back of the stitch. And if you look down the stitch, you can see the V's. And this is an easy way to count your stitches, because you just count the V's. So if you ever get stuck, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's easy to count them. So we've got to go through the back loops now. So this swatch, this was just done in a normal way. Now I'm going to show you how to just go into the back loops. So to get our next row, we do our chain. I'm going to cinch it down so it doesn't get confused with a stitch. And this is the front loop here, and this one here is the back loop. So we've got front loop, back loop, and that's what we're going to go into. So I'm going to show you that first. So we're going to yarn over, and we're going to go into that V that's at the top and just pick up one loop. Where we normally go through both loops, we're going through the one, and we're going to yarn over and pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through all three. So we've left this one in the front, and we're going to do the same again. So looking down at your stitches to the top V, yarn over, ignore this one, we're going to just go through that one only. So you just want one on your hook, yarn over, pull up the loop, yarn over and pull through all three. And we're going to carry on like that, yarn over, go into the back loop only, yarn over and pull up your loop, yarn over, pull through all three. So as you can see, straight away, we're making this ridge form. And we're just going to keep doing that as we go along. It's the same stitch we've worked on before, the half treble or half double in the US, but we're just doing it through the back loop. Now don't worry if it starts to pull like this, because you're new to it, you're making it baggy. It doesn't matter. When you work into it and we go a bit further along, it works its way back to being flat again. But we're making this ridge. Now, our rows do have a little ridge, but they don't have this one. It's more pronounced. And that's achieved by working in the back loops of the stitch. Just like that. And of course, that's with the half treble. We can do the same thing with the UK double crochet, which is a single crochet in the US, just by going into that back loop, pulling up our loop, yarning over and pulling through both. Just going into that back loop, making our loop, pull through two. And that was the first stitch that we ever learn. And again, we're making that ridge. We're just going into this back loop that you can see at the top of our stitches. Okay, so there we are. We've done half trebles, which is half double in the US. We've done our double crochets, which is a single crochet in the US. And we're going to do one more stitch, which is a slip stitch. And we're going to go through the back loop. So just the same, there's our V. We go into our back loop. We're going to yarn over and pull through that one and pull through that loop. And we're slip stitching. Yarn over and pull it through. Then pull it through this one. So we're just slip stitching our way along, going through that back loop only. So as you can see, it's getting smaller. And that is the shaping that we need. If it helps you, pull it through that one first, then that one. The only time it gets tricky is at the end of the row, because this is our second to last stitch. We've got to go in our last one, which is here, and you have to find it. You've got to fiddle with it and get it on the hook. Like, it is tough. So when you get to the ends, don't make your last stitch and your first stitch too tight. So now, that's the back. I've got a message. As you can see, we're now shaping. We're carried on going through the back loops, making our ridge, but we started off with a half treble, and then we went to the double, and then we went to a slip stitch. We're going to turn. So we're going to make a chain. We're not going to make this tight, this stitch, and we're going to cinch it down. Now, when I'm doing my slip stitches and I'm changing my row, you need to not lose sight of the first stitch. So sometimes I like to put my hook into that first stitch, just the back loop, which is now, obviously, because we're looking at it this way, it's the front loop. So just put it through, and then I turn my work and I complete my slip stitch. Again, don't make it too tight. Now we need to look at our V's. There they are. They are more confusing because it's only a slip stitch. And if you pull on it, you can see this is the one we've done. This is the one that we're going into next. And we're just going to go and slip stitch our way along. Okay, turn it so that you can see where you're going. We've been into this one. If you pull it, you can see. We're going to go into the next one. Yarn over and do the slip stitch. Again, we've been in that one. We're going in this one. Now this is trickier, and you need to practice this a fair bit before we start working on our pumpkins, or you will get stuck. Okay, so that's all we're doing. Have we got, no, we'll do one more. There's our V's. You can see them there. Back loop, pull up the loop, pull it through the loop on your hook. Now you've done your slip stitches, and we're still leaving the V's. So now we'll go and do the double crochet, single in the US, but we're working in the back loops again. That's the front of the stitch, well, the way we're going, and this is the top. We insert just in the back loop, yarn over, pull up the loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Go into the back loop, yarn over and pull up the loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Into that back loop, yarn over, pull up the loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So we're really making a slope now. You can see where these stitches end and the half treble or half double start. So we'll carry on with this stitch until we get there. But we're just working in the back loops only. If I go too fast, just pause it and catch up. Now obviously the hardest part is the slip stitching, and once you get good at it, it'll be fine, but in the beginning it's always difficult. So we're at the half trebles or half doubles, so we're yarning over, going into that back loop, pulling up our loop, going through all 3, yarn over, go into that back loop, and you can, remember, just tilt it if you can't see it, and we'll go all the way to the end, just going in those back loops. Okay, so when you get to the end, you can still see there is a V there. There's one there, and one there. So we know where our end of the row is. That's why you mustn't do your stitches at the beginning and end of the row too tight. Okay, so we're going to chain 1, cinch that down and turn. It's looking really slanted now, isn't it? We're going to do another row. I'm going to pull some yarn out before I do. But don't worry too much, you know, there's no hurry to get this done. The videos are there, or they will be there, and you can tackle them, you know, as soon as you're ready to. Okay, so we're starting off with the same stitch that we left behind, and if you get confused, this one here, we'll cinch it down so you won't get confused with that chain. This is our first stitch. I'm going to yarn over, go into the back loop only. Remember, just tilt it, find it, and off we go. In the back loop. Remember, you can just move along and hold this part and keep it steady. I feel like my yarn was pulling even though I pulled it out. It's not caught on anything. Okay, so we're going to go to here. We've got 3 more, I think, to do. And we change stitch. I think. Yep. So now we're going to go back to our UK double crochet or US single crochet, just having our 2 loops, no yarning over, just going in, yarn over and pull up the loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and we're going to do a few of those. Couple more. Be careful when you're turning that you don't go too far and take something else. You just want 1 loop. Okay, so I think that's our last one there. Now we're going to do the slip stitch. So again, we need to be extra careful to make sure we get the last one. So we're going to just go through the back loop, yarn over and pull through both the loops on your hook. Go in to the back loop, yarn over, pull it up. If it helps you to do it slowly, that's fine. Just through the back loop, yarn over, pull it up, go through both. The trickiest one is the last one. So this is our second to last one. This little kind of stitch is our last, and you have to fiddle with it to find it. See, it is hard to see, but you go in and fiddle with it and you'll find it. Just don't make this one tight and you're fine. Then hold on to that stitch and do your chain and cinch it down, and then you're not going to forget which is the stitch you're going in and which is the chain. See, the chain has gone very small. So we're just going to go through that back loop, pull it up and go through the one on our hook. We don't want it tight. We'll go to the end of this row and then I'll leave you to practice this, and the next tutorial or the next one will be a pumpkin, and I'll tell you at the end of this what you're going to need. Once you've done this and you've got good with this, with both of these stitches, if you want to, just practice with your slip stitch all the way along for a few rows. Count your stitches, make sure you start with, if you're doing 20, you start with 20, you finish with 20. If you haven't, then you need to fish around at the end for that extra stitch that you kind of look small. But just make sure that what you've got at the beginning, you've got at the end. Just practice them all. And now we're going to go, if you can't see it, remember, just tilt it, and there it is. We're going to do our, if it helps to do all of these stitches, just practice. It will become an odd shape, it doesn't really matter. It's a practice swatch, and that's all it's for, is to get good at those stitches. Got one more, and now we're gonna, maybe another one actually, do our yarn over before we go in. Once we get to the end of this row, we'll stop and have a look, and I'll tell you what you need to get together to make the pumpkin. If I go ahead, just pause me. Almost there. Don't forget, we've got 2 stitches. There's the last one. Turn it over. And there we go, go into that last one. Okay, so I'll pull out a nice big loop and we'll have a look at it. So this is how we're doing shaping on a flat. Shaping this way, obviously. If you needed to shape this way, that's decreasing, or that way you'd be increasing. And we'll get to that another time. But this, for now, is how we're tapering. Now, these are the stitches you're going to need if you want to do the pumpkin. You don't have to do the pumpkin. You can skip to the next one. But I'm just getting you ready for it. So carry on practicing If you want, practice slip stitching, half treble, and get this back to a square if you feel really adventurous. If not, just carry on. And then if you need to, just do the slip stitch. But as you can see, we're making these definite ridges in our work. And that is what forms these ridges in our pumpkin, by just going in those back loops. Okay, so what do we need for the pumpkin then? You're going to need about 50 grams of an Aran weight yarn if you choose Aran. You can do it in chunky, you can do it in a DK. Any weight of yarn will produce a different size of pumpkin. Now, for the pumpkins, I used Aran weight yarn, but I used a very small crochet hook for that size of yarn. I used a 4mm. So that's the trick to getting this without any holes. And that's the trick when doing toys like amigurumi. You use a smaller hook for the size of yarn, which then makes a denser work, makes it sturdier, and so you can't see the stuffing through it. So that's what you're going to need. If you're going to use a DK yarn, then you're going to need about a 275 or a 3mm hook. If you're going to use chunky, then perhaps a 5mm hook. You will then get a much bigger pumpkin, so you'll need more yarn. But for the Aran one that I made, a 50-gram ball, one of these, I had quite a lot of yarn left over making this one. So that's what you're going to need. You're going to need something to stuff it. Now, I had some toy stuffing that I got free in magazines and boxes that I'd subscribed to, and you can purchase it in craft stores. Funnily enough, as yet I don't stock it. I could have done in Hobby Box. I had wholesalers that do it, but I haven't stocked it. But you can buy it. Now, the other thing you can use, if you haven't got that, is just balls of yarn. If you've got practice balls that are, especially ones that are falling apart or bits left over, you can stuff it with that. You can stuff it with anything. If I actually once had a pillow that looked a little bit out of shape. It wasn't old, but it wasn't particularly a good shape, so I pulled it open and I used the stuffing out of it. It is exactly the same stuff that you can buy in the craft stores. So I just used that. It was cheaper than buying the wadding that goes in. So that's what you're going to need. A 50-gram ball. You'll need a crochet hook that's small for the yarn. So for mine, I used a 4mm. You're going to need a darning needle and a pair of scissors. Now, if it helps you, you can use stitch markers. Now, these ones I just got free in a magazine. There are these ones that just hook through, and they've got some in here that look like little light bulbs, to be honest with you, but there's all different sorts, and I do have some in my shop that are like little yarn balls. They're well cute, but these are like little safety pins, but they're shaped a bit like a light bulb. So you can get all different kinds. You can get ones with bulldog clips, and that, if you need to, if you wanted to use that in the very end stitch, make sure you always find it, then you can. So that's all the materials that you're going to need. You can get a cinnamon stick if you want, or get a couple of these little twigs. This was just one that I found outside my house just before you get to the road, so I thought that was a perfect size. So that's what we're going to do soon. Just for now, practice that shaping, and I'll catch up with you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.